Welcome to the third episode of the Fantasy Podcast. I'm joined with my good friend Andrew Nenner here today. Andrew, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, of
I go
course.
to Indiana University, and I'm very knowledgeable about fantasy sports, so I'm hyped to get into it.
We're going to be talking about fantasy football and football in general today. Obviously, craziest free agency probably in years, maybe in history. And I'm going to start with the AFC West. Obviously, the Chargers made some big moves. J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack. Broncos made a move for Russ. And the Raiders signed Chandler Jones and traded for Devontae Adams. Nen, in that division, who do you think won in
Oh
the
man,
offseason, of course?
I gotta say the Broncos, because for years that was a storyline. The Broncos have everything but the quarterback, and finally, I think the Rams are an example. They're a great example. You have everything, so you can kind of leverage the future and trade for what you need, and that's the most important position. And you get one of the best players at that position, Russell Wilson. So for that reason, I think them getting what they need, the most important thing, they won out of that division.
I definitely have to agree. Them getting Russell Wilson. I mean, they've been struggling for years. They needed a quarterback, definitely. I mean, they've had a great defense. They've always had some good weapons on offense, but they've never had that quarterback since Peyton Manning. They've clearly tried. But obviously, second to the Broncos, I really have to say that the Chargers won. They've been really good on offense. They were really good last year with Justin Herbert, but they struggled really, really hard on defense. Picking up J.C. Jackson. I know cornerbacks coming from Bill Belichick usually have a tendency to be bad on their next team. But J.C. Jackson seems like maybe he can differentiate himself. And Khalil Mack, in the final years of maybe his prime, he could definitely be good on the Chargers defense. If I have to say the biggest loser in that division has to be the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you think about that Tyreek Hill trade?
I mean, yeah, for sure. At the end of the day, you can't have Mahomes, Chris Jones,
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey. You can't pay everybody. But
And
I
Frank
think,
Clark. They have Frank Clark too.
yeah, and you've seen with how much the Dolphins gave up, and with the Devontae Adams acquisition for the Raiders, how the league is starting to value receivers, and even like a guy like Christian Kirk, who hasn't even really proved himself, who's getting so much money. It just shows how important wide receivers are in today's game. So that's a huge loss for the Chiefs, and we'll see how it works out for them.
The thing about the Tyreek trade is I think it's semi-beneficial to both sides, although it does probably the Chiefs come out more as the losers than the Miami Dolphins. But, as you said, the Chiefs aren't going to be able to pay everyone. But obviously, they got Juju back. They got Valdez-Scantling. So, Mahomes can make any wide receiver good, to be honest. We're going to move on from, the AFC West. We got Matt Ryan to the Colts. We got Mariota to the Falcons. Now, that's big. I want to talk about that. Do you think them signing Mariota means that they're not going to draft a quarterback?
I mean, I don't think so. Personally, I just don't know the direction the Falcons are really trying to take, because they're in a position of rebuilding. I don't really know what they're thinking with taking Kyle Pitts. He's a great player, but when you're in a state like that and trying to rebuild a weapon gadget player, personally, I don't think that's the way you should go. But I think Mariota's a good fill-in. I think he's underrated. He kind of proved himself when he got the opportunity with the Raiders.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's going to be the long-term solution there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on the Kyle Pitts pick. It also confuses me with the Mariota signing because, like, as you said, he's a good fill-in. But, the thing is he's just good enough to where he'll get you maybe a couple wins that you don't want on a team that's rebuilding. Like, say, for instance, they go, I don't know, 8-9 next year, right, with Mariota. Just maybe they pull that off. Probably unrealistic, maybe a little unrealistic, but, like, what does that give you? That gives you nothing. That gives you Mariota maybe had a decent season. They get a mid-round pick, and that solves nothing for them because they're rebuilding. And I kind of do get where they were coming from the Kyle Pitts pick. You pick someone like that. Maybe Matt Ryan has another good year. Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, running back. I don't know. You're right. It doesn't make sense, but they're definitely not moving in a great position. I want to move on to the Browns and the Steelers, that kind of division, what we think about them. I mean, obviously the Browns traded for Desean Watson, huge case around him, but they also fleeced, the Cowboys for Amari Cooper. And Mitchell Trubisky going to the Steelers also, in my opinion, kind of reminds me of a Marcus Mariota type thing. And I'm a Steelers fan, but, like, I don't love the signing because again, we're like in the middle of like the worst spot. I don't know if we're rebuilding. I don't know if we're trying to make the playoffs. We're not going to win with Mitch Trubisky in the playoffs, so it kind of confuses me. What do you think about that division?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't love the Trubisky acquisition. I mean, one thing I will say is Mike Tomlin does know how to win. So
Yeah.
I think he's last year was his only year without a winning season. So
No.
we'll
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know their exact record. I think they might have had a winning season. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Did they make the playoffs?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure they made the playoffs.
But I don't. Obviously, Trubisky hasn't had the greatest success in the past. He was a first-round pick out of North Carolina a few years ago, so maybe Tomlin can rekindle that success. But I don't know. I don't love it. We'll see where they go from here. Maybe they'll look to draft a quarterback this year in the future. I've heard a bunch of talk about them maybe getting Malik Willis at the end of the second round, at the end of the first round where they're picking, which is intriguing. But I don't love Trubisky for a long-term solution like I was talking about with Mariota and the Falcons. But on the other hand, I love what the Browns did. Kind of what I was saying about Russ before and the Broncos. I think sometimes you just got to take the risk. Desean Watson is a phenomenal quarterback. And let's not forget what he just did a few years ago, throwing for 4,800 yards and 33 touchdowns on a Texans team that was just not very good, that didn't have that many weapons. So,
did they have Hopkins in his last year? No, Hopkins was already traded at that point, right?
Yeah, I think he was traded.
I'm pretty sure he was traded because Will Fuller was his number one that season. Yeah. That at the back end he got like crunched for PEDs or something. The Steelers did not make the playoffs last year. I should have remembered that. They lost like a crucial game, I remember. I'm gonna go with my top three winners for free agency to wrap it up. I had the Chargers at top. I had the Buccaneers at second, and I had the Broncos at top, the Bucs at second, and the Chargers at third. Nen, what do you think about that?
I agree with the Broncos. Going in a different direction, not as much teams. I was thinking Christian Kirk has got to be the biggest winner of NFL free agency.
Yeah, no,
that man robbed the Jacksonville Jaguars. He does not deserve that money, but he swindled them. And also, I want to say, I think Allen Robinson won too. Him finally going from Blake Bortles to Mitch Trubisky. Now he finally gets a real quarterback, a real team. He has Matt Stafford, Sean McVay. So big.
Let me add on to that because I think the reason he also won is because he still got his money, and he had an awful season last year. I know he had Justin Fields, but he missed a lot of games. And when he was in, obviously, Fields wasn't playing great last year, but he still played awful. But he still got his money, which I think was still really important, especially for a wide receiver like that. Obviously, they knew his talent, but, from a player perspective, he still got his money. I'm going to move on. We're going to move on to fantasy top threes for next year. We're going to go quarterback, wide receivers, and then running backs. I'm going to start with my top three. My top three quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and then throwing a curveball for the third. I'm going to say Jalen Hurts.
Okay. You want to?
Who are your top three? Yeah, no, I want to hear your top three. I know I could go into Jalen Hurts if you want.
Okay, well, contrary to popular belief, I think most people have Josh Allen number one, but I'm gonna go ahead and say Justin Herbert's number one. And then I have Josh Allen, and then I have Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. I said Jalen Hurts at number three. This is the only reason I said Jalen Hurts, right? So he was pretty good last year. I'm pretty sure he finished as maybe a QB, a top four QB in fantasy. I know he was definitely QB2 for a really long time. Obviously he has absurd rushing volume. He's obviously going to run the ball. He's good with the ball in his hands. But, who's to say he doesn't take the leap this year with his passing ability? You don't know. Like, if he does take the leap, I would see him going into the top three, like I said. Obviously, I have Josh Allen at number one. He's been a really good fantasy quarterback. I have Lamar Jackson. In my opinion, I think he's going to take a leap. If they've gotten a better defense, in my opinion, I definitely see him finishing in the top three. But why do you have Justin Herbert as number one? I'll tell you why I don't have Justin Herbert as number one. I think with a better defense, obviously, that could maybe help him. But I think that also might make them lean more on Austin Eckler.
Okay. Well, I have him number one because, first of all, I'm a Justin Herbert fan. Coming out of Oregon, he was just a good quarterback, a lot of natural talent, big guy, good arm. He's only grown more comfortable with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. He's got a good young offensive coach, which is what you need in today's NFL. He has Austin Eckler, and last year he threw for over 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns, and that was in his second year. So I think that on a young, good team, a quality team whose defense is only getting better, so they're only going to have the ball more possessions. He's just in play for a huge season. About Josh Allen, I don't have him number one. He's so good, but you got to remember that the Bills lost Brian Dabble, so their offensive coordinator.
Oh, yes, you're right.
So we'll have to see how they adjust to that, and if they can keep producing at the same level of production they once were.
Yeah, I don't have anyone in that AFC division, AFC West division we were just talking about, like Herbert or Mahomes. Obviously, Mahomes is a talent, and like you made all your good points about Herbert, but I just don't want to trust that division right now. You got four, like maybe the best top 7 teams in the NFL right now. They got to all play each other twice. That's 6 times that Herbert's going to have to play like 3 top 7 teams. Who's to say that that's not great if I'm looking at a fantasy perspective? But also, they could be good games.
I actually disagree in that they're all high-powered offenses.
Yeah.
So it's going to be shootouts, 6 shootouts. That's what I like. That we like that. We want that.
Yeah, I guess. I'm gonna move on to running backs. I'm gonna start obviously with my top 3. I got Henry at number 1. I got Taylor at number 2, and then I got Leonard Fournette at number 3. I'll say why I got Leonard Fournette at number 3. I mean, obviously he's a 3-down back at this point, pretty much established. They got rid of what's his name? What was the backup that just signed with Rojo? Ronald Jones. Yeah, Ronald Jones is out of there. I think they signed Gio Bernard. Maybe Gio Bernard will take some 3rd-down snaps from Fournette, but I doubt it. And obviously Henry is bound to get 30 carries a game. They lost Julio Jones. They got Robert Woods, who's going to be out for a while since he tore his ACL. Maybe he'll be back for the beginning of the year. And then Jonathan Taylor, way bigger upgrade from Carson Wentz. And Matt Ryan's a little older, so maybe they'll lean on him. And Matt Ryan's going to be able to distribute the ball better.
Okay.
I saw you made a face when I had Henry at number 1, though. So
yeah.
I want to know what that's about.
Okay. Well, first I'll say my list. I got JT number 1.
Okay.
Straight dog out of Wisconsin.
I just want to say, I think you have a little bias. Last year, I'm pretty sure you did have Jonathan Taylor and Justin Herbert in fantasy. I noticed that
they were both dogs, and they were both dogs.
I know. I want people that are watching this to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I draft the best players. That's how it goes.
Continue.
We got Nick Chubb at number 2, and we got Austin Eckler at number 3. So
damn, I never would have thought of Nick Chubb. I want to know why you have him.
Or do you want me to talk about Derrick Henry first?
All right, you can talk about Derrick Henry first.
Okay, well, honestly, I think Derrick Henry's time, I wouldn't say it's up, but I don't think he's can produce as a top 5 running back anymore. It's just running backs, they just take a toll, so many hits. And also, you noted how they got rid of Julio, AJ Brown, there are trade rumors, Robert Woods is hurt, so defenses will just be stacking the box against him. And can he continue to play at that output? I don't know. I'm questioning it. And Nick Chubb, I love Nick Chubb this year. He's obviously talented, coming from Georgia, strong SEC school. He's a top 10 offensive line according to PFF. They have Jedrick Wills, Joel Bitonio. What's not to love? They got Desean Watson and Amari Cooper. So their offense is going to be way more productive, way more scoring opportunities. And last year, the Browns ranked 6th in rushing play percentage. So they have one of the highest rushing rates out of all teams in the league, and they still have Kevin Stefanski, the same coaching staff. So I think that trend will continue, and he'll only produce more, have more touchdown opportunities, and just more ways to produce. So yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on the Derrick Henry, like the stack boxes, and I mean you got to think how many teams probably game plan for him in the past 2 years. That he's probably destroyed their game plan, stack boxes, blitzes, any front show they're going to give him, he probably destroyed. Plus the offensive line. I do get what you're saying, like that they get old and the hits are going to rack up, but I don't know what's it his 3rd year. Like not 3rd year in the NFL, but like maybe 4th year being a quote productive back with that amount of carries that he's going to get. So I mean I don't see it racking up like you say. But we can move on to wide receivers. But I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
For my wide receivers, this is where I got a little rough with the wide receivers because it's hard. There's a lot of good wide receivers. So I had a 1A, a 1D, and a 2A and a 2B. So my 1A was Cooper Kupp. My 1B was Justin Jefferson. And then my 2A was Jamar Chase. And my 2B was Devontae Adams.
Okay.
I'll explain why. Let me go into why I got Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson could be the best wide receiver in football next year. I mean, he's 23 years old. He finishes wide receiver 7, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 7 his first year, wide receiver 4 his last year. I mean, pretty sure only Odell, maybe Michael Thomas did better in their first couple of years. I mean, I'd be shocked if he doesn't go as either the first or second wide receiver off the board.
Okay. Well, I actually agree. I just have a different order. The same players. Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, and then I think Jamar and Jay Jettas are interchangeable for the third spot. I couldn't really decide. So I just think the Devontae Adams, first of all, best receiver in the league, like talent-wise. He's reconnecting with Derek Carr, who they played together at Fresno State. So defenses are going to have to pick who are they going to cover, Devontae Adams or Darren Waller. And Devontae Adams is just going to get so many targets, a lot of touchdowns, I think. You don't think so?
I just don't think, bro, like, here's the thing. They got Hunter Renfrow. They got that Brian Edwards kid that they for some reason love. They got Darren Waller. I just don't think he's getting, like, I have the stat right here. He had like 28% plus target shares and like or above in the past 2 years. I wouldn't be shocked if it drops down below 15% in his target shares. I just don't see him getting the targets. I just don't.
They have other weapons.
He's gonna be a red zone threat for sure. I mean that's what he is. But I wouldn't be shocked if his targets drop a lot.
I mean, okay, but when you commit that much capital to such a good player, you throw to Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say
that. I agree with that. I mean, fantasy wise, who knows? Like fantasy wise, I don't think I'm gonna see. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he is outside of the top 5 in wide receivers next year.
But you just said he's gonna be top 4. Did you know?
Yeah, I know, but I wouldn't be shocked though if he was outside of the top 5.
Okay.
Like he's a guaranteed top 4. Like you got to pick him top 4, but I wouldn't be shocked if his production falls.
Okay. Cooper Kupp, I agree. He's got another year with Matt Stafford, who he's building connection with. Another year under McVay, and they add Allen Robinson, who will take some of the focus off of him. And I think Cooper Kupp, he's in store for a good season, but he's not number 1 for me because he's just due for regression. You can't. I don't think
obviously
that season. So
I have to agree. I definitely agree. But these are 2 questions I had for you. I didn't put them on my list. But what do you think about like Devo Samuel and AJ Brown? I mean, obviously you said AJ Brown has trade rumors. I've been hearing about that. Say AJ Brown doesn't get traded, and say Devo has Trey Lance at the helm. What do you think about them two?
First of all, AJ Brown. Last year he was kind of inconsistent, and I think there are some injury problems. But
there were some injury problems.
A very talented receiver. But at the end of the day, you're looking. Devontae has Derek Carr, who I like. Kupp has Matt Stafford. Jay Jettis has Joe Burrow, and like Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback, a suitable quarterback for fantasy too. But he's just not a top 8 quarterback in the NFL, and I think that puts somewhat of a cap on AJ Brown's production ceiling. And with Devo Samuel, I like because he provides a lot of utility. So you know, he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, and Kyle Shanahan, he obviously utilizes this. And so there's a lot to like with that. And I'm only excited to see what the Niners do with Trey Lance, who I think is a good talent and has a lot of potential in Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I'd be willing to bet on that combo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when Trey Lance played against Houston, pretty sure Devo finished with like his top 3 or 4 performance in fantasy for the year. So I don't know. It definitely worries me a little having a quote rookie quarterback fill in for someone like Jimmy Garoppolo. But I wouldn't be shocked if Devo is still really, really good. To finish off, I want to go with Super Bowl favorites. I have the Bucks. I would love to see who you have, or hear who you have.
Okay. Well, I picked several teams. First
Okay.
of all, the Rams. It's hard to bet against the Rams when they have Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, and who's really challenging them in the NFC. The Cowboys, definitely not. The Cowboys aren't making hay in the playoffs. And
Hmm.
I mean, the Bucks, are we sure the Bucks can make it back there? I mean, they lost Bruce
Yeah.
Arians. Can Todd Bowles coach the Super Bowl team? I don't know.
Mhm. I do have to agree with you on that. The coaching situation does worry me a little, but at the same time, I mean, he was crazy on defense. They didn't keep a lot of the defense. I'm pretty sure they haven't re-signed Jason Pierre-Paul. Pretty sure they lost some corners.
Which
Pretty
they
sure
didn't
safety.
really have to begin with.
Yeah, which they didn't really have to begin with. And I mean, obviously Brady comes back. They get Godwin from the injury. Fournette maybe will be a better player now. They kind of integrated him into the offense towards the back half of the year. But in my opinion, like you said, that NFC is really, really, really soft, and I don't see anyone other than the Rams challenging them. And they were really, really close to beating them. I mean, pretty much one pass play from Cooper Kupp away from beating them without Godwin and without any corners. And I don't know. I definitely see them getting a cakewalk to the Super Bowl. Who knows who they beat in the Super Bowl? I don't know who's coming out of the AFC. There's so many good teams. Like I said, that entire West is stacked. You got plenty of teams, but I definitely do have them as Super Bowl favorites.
The
Do you have
Rams?
any team? No, the Bucks. Who do you have
Okay.
in specific coming out of the AFC?
I mean, like you said, AFC, at this point, it's just like super hard to predict. I like Lamar and the Ravens. Josh Allen and the Bills obviously have been hot the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The AFC West, I mean, you got to think 3 teams are coming out of there into the
Yeah,
playoffs.
exactly.
So, I mean, really, it's a toss-up. I think it could be anyone. But if I had to right now say a hot take, it's the Chargers. Right now, April 4th, 2022 at 11 o'clock p.m., the Chargers coming out of the AFC.
That is definitely a hot take. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go straight shot that down. I mean, I don't know, it's a young coach, young quarterback, not a lot of experience on the team. I mean, there's obviously experienced players, but not experience in the playoffs and like the postseason. A team like that I see is obviously the Bills and the Ravens. They've been there. They're good teams now. Who say they won't be good teams in the playoffs? Even the Broncos, to be honest. Russell's like a really good seasoned quarterback. He'll be good in the playoffs. Those are some teams I have coming out of the AFC, but that's all I got for Super Bowl.
Okay, I think that Russ, new situation, new team, kind of questionable. Ravens, I like Lamar, I like what they're doing, but they just have not shown that they have the ability to get it done in the playoffs. Like I said before, the Bills lose Brian Dabble. Derek Carr I like, but I mean he hasn't done anything in the playoffs.
Mm-mm.
So I think the Chargers have a good shot.
All right, that's a great take. But that's all we got for you today. We covered 3 good things. I'm really glad to have Nenner on here. It was a great experience having one of my good friends. Obviously, tune in Thursday where I'll have another guest and we'll be discussing baseball. Thank you so much, Nen, for coming on, and I appreciate all you guys for watching.
Thank you for having me.